is Iyengar. Krishnamacharya was married to Iyengar's sister. So you can see it's a family affair. He asked Iyengar to come to Mysore to practice Ashtanga yoga to improve his poor health. So Iyengar in young years had many problems, and he started then to study under Tirumalai Krishnamacharya, and his health improved impressively. And he was so dedicated to the practice of yoga that Krishnamacharya asked him to help him in the yoga shala and to start teaching. But for Iyengar, as he had experienced by himself health problems, for him it was very clear that he needs to go back to the Hatha Yoga system instead of staying with the Vinyasa system, because it makes things easier in a therapeutic aspect to use the asanas and not making it with that flows more difficult, eventually producing more injuries in that transitions of the Vinyasa. And for him it was clear he will go back in his own teachings to the Hatha concept. And that is what we have in the day of today as the Iyengar Yoga, which is also spread out in all over the world. We had, of course, then much more teachers in the Western world teaching Vinyasa Yoga, especially in the US, very famous Indra Devi, which had then all the celebrities like Madonna, and they started actually then making that Ashtanga Vinyasa very famous in all over the world and in the Western world, and then spreading that further out, and then it became a very modern yoga style. And then we had Desi Kacha and A.G. Mohan, and he is still in the day of today one of the schools where you can really get an certificate from Krishnamacharya, because he's very strictly that tradition. Now, something what is very important in the Vinyasa as in the Hatha Yoga, we have a fixed form system. So like, for example, Bikram Yoga or the Mysore style of yoga, the primary series. So we have in the Hatha as in the Vinyasa fixed form systems, like for example the Sivananda series, 12 core postures which are never changing. Bikram Yoga is using a fixed series. Primary series, Mysore style of yoga is a fixed series, and they practice every time the same thing, every day the same thing, simply to show us what is changing within us, even if the practice is every day the same. And then we have the variable forms, which helps up to see the unhinging of the permanent, and this would be like the Satyananda Yoga, or Vishnu Devananda, Integral Yoga, Satchitananda, any kind of Vinyasa flows which are not fixed. So that would go all into this form of yoga. Now, Hatha versus Vinyasa Yoga, especially for us teachers, that's a very important point. The two styles are actually the two sides of the same coin. And as a yoga teacher, it makes you much more complete if you know and if you practice about both of that yoga styles. You can use much easier the Hatha for pregnancy yoga. You can use Hatha as Vinyasa for children yoga to make it more playish in this case. You can use in the yoga therapy Hatha as Vinyasa yoga, but there are certain things which you can handle easier in a Hatha, and others which is maybe a little more advanced, more fluid, more dynamic in a intermediate to advanced style of yoga. And depending what your students need, it is always good if more background and if more information as a yoga teacher, according to different yoga styles you have, if more you can adjust it to the needs of your students, and there is no need to send somebody home. And you have people that prefer more Hatha, and you have people that prefer more Vinyasa, and it would be definitely a pity to say, no, I don't offer Hatha Yoga, look for another teacher. So remember that the asanas are the same. It's simply like you put them together is the difference between these two styles. And in the Western world, I mentioned it already before, the Vinyasa is a little more the cooler style, the more dynamic style, but at the end, the asanas are the same. And Hatha shows us to be more truth, to that very traditional yoga, while in the vinyasa you can play much more with things and there are less rules. But definitely both styles together make you the better teacher and you understand better about the concept of yoga.